What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to Canada's new plan for its military. So, apparently, Mark Carney made a speech recently about Canada's military, which, to be honest, is something us Americans really don't know much about. And by the look of this video title, this is pretty significant news. It says, Carney pledges a transformation of Canadian military to meet global turning points. So, I mean, this sounds like pretty big news to me. I really haven't heard much of anything about this here in the United States. But this could obviously include some changes for Canada that could have big effects on the United States as well. So I really want to take a look at this and see what's going on in Canada with your military. Let's take a look.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you for being here. Chief, Minister of Defense, colleagues. Janice, thank you for that introduction. Hopefully you got my version of it. We're able to read it out. It is a pleasure. There's no better place to have this announcement, this discussion, than the Monk School. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. This institution, over the course of the past two decades, faculty, students, graduates have helped shape Canada's domestic policies, our geopolitical strategy.
Okay. I'm sure it's a wonderful institution. I'm sure it's a very historical, a lovely venue. But let's get to the military news. Let's get to the good stuff.
Strategies, and of course, beyond our shores as well. And we wanted to make this announcement here because your insights here at Monk have never been in more demand than at this hinge moment in our history. Threats from a more dangerous and divided world are unraveling the rules-based international order. An order that was fused by the settlements at the end of the Second World War and the end of the Cold War, an order on which Canada has relied for longer than many of our lifetimes.
Wow. I mean, just starting out, he's already making this seem like it's a pretty big announcement. Did people know that this was coming? Nobody told me. I didn't know. We didn't know. Shocker that here in the United States, yeah, this is the kind of stuff we really don't talk about and really don't get to hear about. So this was a big announcement. And I don't know, it's kind of ominous. The first thing he's talking about is the unraveling of the world order, the world law, and how things are scary and unpredictable and changing. Not to say that sounds kind of accurate, to be fair.
And while the consequences of these developments are profound, we have agency. We have agency in determining what comes next. Canada can work towards a new international set of partnerships that are more secure, prosperous, just, and free.
See, this is where it concerns me. Not like it has to do with me, but it is concerning to me. Perhaps is the better way to phrase that. When he talks about new partnerships, Canada, new partnerships, brand new. I get the sense that he's kind of alluding to Canada moving away from the old relationship with the United States, the old partnerships, and moving towards new ones. That's the vibe. That's the gist I'm getting from this, I'm afraid. For America, I'm afraid that's what's happening here.
We can pursue deeper alliances with stable democracies who share.
Why? Okay, just say it. Okay, Mark Carney, just say it. Just do it. Pull off the Band-Aid. Just do it. make new partnerships with stable democracies. Okay, I get it. You're talking about us. All right. Why? Just say it. He is talking. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's a funny way to put it. Like, we're not going to associate with those unstable democracies. America. Oh, excuse me. Okay.
Share our interests, values, principles, and history. And we can help create a new era of integration between like-minded partners that maximizes mutual support over mutual dependency.
Yeah.
A new system of cooperation that promotes greater resilience rather than merely a quest for greater efficiency.
Okay.
Now, we can aspire to such a world, but aspiration without effort is just empty rhetoric.
All right.
If
That's something a lot of Americans are very frustrated about. Empty rhetoric. Like, just compare, just, relating this to me and, the United States. Like, it's very annoying. Here in the US, politicians are kind of known for just talking and saying whatever they need to say to get elected and get power. So I do agree with the sentiment Mark Carney is saying. Like, it's annoying when politicians just talk. You do want to see action. Now, to be fair, we've also seen a lot of action out of the U.S. government in the last few months. So whether you agree with it or not, that's another story. But there has been a lot of action, to be fair.
If we want a better world, we will have to make difficult choices and work harder than we've had to in decades.
Okay.
Government must start by fulfilling its most fundamental role, which is to defend Canadians.
Sure.
And the
Yeah.
primary focus of my remarks today will be the nature and scale of what that will require in this new age. But first, let me stress that there can be no true security without economic prosperity.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a long video. He's gonna talk for like 20 minutes. So I'm gonna try to let him talk a little bit. I'm not gonna interject. Well, I say that now, but we'll see. I'm gonna try to let him talk a bit and then give my thoughts, or else we're never gonna get through this. We're like 2 minutes into this. Yeah, Canada wants to accomplish a lot of things, wants to grow and prosper, and he's talking about military specifically here, defense and maybe offense. I don't know. And you need economic stability and economic prosperity to fund all of these things. Makes sense.
And that's one of the many reasons why so much of the energies of Canada's new government is dedicated and will be dedicated to transforming our economy to become the strongest in the G7.
Wow.
Getting there will require doubling the rate of home building.
The G7. Who's all in the G7? Like, a lot of really, really big, powerful, like very wealthy countries. Canada wants to be the biggest, most successful of all the countries in the G7. Wow, that's a bold statement. Wow, I mean, it's obviously great for Canada, yeah, and that's what you should strive to do. But that's saying a lot.
Creating one Canadian economy out of 13, realizing our full potential as an.
I've heard him talk about that before. How Canada's split up into the provinces and territories, and they all have their own little economies and trade and rules and regulations, and that's interesting. I never really thought of Canada like that. I didn't know it felt divided in that way, and like this idea of one unified Canada, one Canadian economy, not 13. I keep hearing that, so that must be like something that's kind of plagued Canada for a while.
Energy superpower, pursuing a host of other nation-building projects, and diversifying our international commercial relationships with reliable partners.
Why does he got to say it like that? Why's he got to keep doing that? And continuing relationships with reliable partners. Okay. Okay, fine. I get it. Like you're all right.
None of these goals will come easily or quickly. All will require ambition, collaboration, and, yes, on occasion, sacrifice. In a darker, more competitive world, Canadian leadership will be defined not just by the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength. A more confident, united Canada, a stronger Canada can help transform this age of disorder into an era of prosperity for all Canadians.
Okay.
And simply put, if we want a more reliable world, we need a stronger Canada.
This whole talk, I thought, based on the title, that what we're getting at is Canada's military. And he's talking a lot about Canada has to be secure, Canada has to be strong. He's talking about economic strength. Is what we're getting at here, though, Canada wants to be militarily strong? Because I thought that was actually the topic of this whole speech.
If Canada came of age at Vimy Ridge, we matured in the decades that followed D-Day. Depuis la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, le Canada a affirmé
Since the Second World War, Canada has asserted its independence. We forged our own identity and new alliances.
De plus en plus, nous nous sommes éloignés
Increasingly,
du Royaume-Uni
we distanced ourselves from the United Kingdom
des États-Unis.
and developed closer ties with the
Nous
United
sommes
States.
restés aux côtés des Américains
Yeah.
We
tout
were
au
by
long
the
de la
side
guerre
of the
froide.
United States
Et lors
throughout
des
the Cold
décennies
War
suivantes,
and in the decades
alors
that
que
followed,
les
Yes.
États-Unis
Yes.
ont joué
when the
un
United
rôle
States
prédominant
played a
sur
predominant
l'échiquier
role
mondial.
on the world stage.
Aujourd'hui,
Today,
cette prédominance
that predominance
est chose du passé.
is a thing of the past.
With the fall of the Berlin Wall, the United States became
I was about to get my big foam finger out, the big foam finger, and be like, yeah, USA, Canada, historical, best friends in action, World War II, and onward. And his whole point at the end there was that that's all in the past and not at all what's happening right now. And he said the United States was a global and world leader, and I'm pretty sure he said that's not true anymore either. So that hurts. That hurts. That hurts to hear.
the global hegemon. Its gravitational pull on Canada, always strong, became virtually irresistible and made the U.S. our closest ally and dominant trading partner.
Yeah.
But now, the United States is beginning to monetize its hegemony, charging for access to its markets.
That's a good way to put it, actually. That's accurate. That's so accurate. I haven't really heard it phrased in that way. Like, the United States, we have been very successful, especially our economy, our trade, our manufacturing. A lot of the world uses the US dollar. That's been outrageously advantageous to us as well for a lot of different reasons. And basically, the United States, we've now taken on a stance of, well, if you want to take part in our success, we're going to charge you for it. You're going to have to pay up. And it's like, isn't a huge part of American success the global partners that have helped us get there along the way? Don't get me wrong. I maybe it's egotistical to say, but I don't think I'm getting too out of line here by saying the United States achieved a lot on our own merit for a very long time. But certainly in recent history, a lot of the success that we've had has also just been with our trade partners, including Canada, a lot of people around the world, a lot of smart, successful people coming from around the world, traveling to the United States, maybe immigrating here, contributing. We've to say now, oh, we've done everything on our own. We got here on our own, and if you want any part in our success, you will pay, is just it's so lame and so not true and so not a productive stance for us to be taking. And Mark Carney is right. That is essentially what we're doing now, isn't it?
And reducing its relative contribution to our collective security.
Yeah.
In parallel, the world's trade routes, allegiances, energy systems, and even intelligence itself are being rewired.
Yeah, like just touching on what he's saying, like America's taking on a very isolationist, like, we're just gonna care about ourselves, we're gonna take care of ourselves, screw everybody else. You're gonna, like, who would want to do business with someone like that, by the way? I don't think enough Americans really. This is such a great video, especially this part. And more Americans need to hear this point of view. This is like the Canadian point of view from the outside, looking at America, talking very candidly about what you guys are seeing from America and what you think. And Mark Carney is just saying it. And I think more Americans should actually hear opinions like this.
Rising great powers are now in strategic competition with America. A new imperialism threatens. Middle powers must compete for interests and attention, knowing that if they're not at the table, they're on the menu. Indeed, the threats that Canada faces are multiplying. Hostile powers, including foreign governments and non-state actors, are transcending geography to threaten our sovereignty.
Really? Who is he talking about? Is he talking about the United States right now? Because, and I'm not even trying to make a joke right now. Like, I just want to be clear. Is there anyone else, like, threatening Canada that I don't know about?
Are multiplying.
Because he says the threats are multiplying, you know?
Hostile powers, including foreign governments and non-state actors, are transcending geography to threaten our sovereignty.
That sounds like it could be talking about America, but I'm not exactly sure.
Terrorist entities have developed new capabilities and expanded their reach to challenge global security and put our communities at risk.
Okay, there we go. America, we've done some bad stuff, but I don't. I hope Canada isn't referring to us as a terrorist organization just yet. So we are talking about other threats from around the world threatening Canada. Okay, got it.
Cyber attacks from the other side of the world can undermine our government, bankrupt our businesses, and paralyze our infrastructure.
Sure.
Et plus de leur capacité en ce qui a trait
In addition
à la cybersécurité,
to their cybersecurity capabilities, the traditional military capabilities of countries like China and Russia are also expanding. Unfortunately, we can no longer rely on our geographic positioning to protect Canadians in the face of these threats.
I mean, that's a huge thing that a lot of Americans take for granted as well. Our geographic location, like on the planet Earth, we are far away from a lot of other countries. You know, it's just like kind of Canada, United States, Mexico, you know, South America, of course. And anyway, but to the east and the west, you know, generally speaking, there's countries that are kind of close to us, but we've certainly here in America, we feel like we're kind of untouchable. Like, oh yeah, good luck getting to us from all the way across the world. And it's like, we kind of live in a day and age where that's a thing. Now, like that is a thing, and that's what Mark Carney is saying, and it of course applies to Canada as well.
Geographic location will protect us is becoming increasingly archaic. Threats which felt far away and remote are now immediate and acute.
Sure.
And as our climate changes and the polar ice recedes, Canada's Arctic is becoming more accessible and more vulnerable to commercial and military activity.
Oh, I haven't thought about it. I don't. That's certainly something we don't hear about, talk about in America, like the north of Canada melting and opening shipping routes and what that could mean. And yeah, unfortunately, as far as what he's saying, I think a lot of people in America will continue to maybe arrogantly feel completely safe until something, it basically takes something to happen. Like, I don't think people will ever take this threats from across the world very seriously until it happens, like when 9/11 happened to America. That made everyone like open their eyes and be like, oh my God, like we are not invincible. We're human. We can be touched. But that people are starting to forget about all that, and we're talking about, like, I don't even know, like digital attacks, cyber attacks. I don't know, drones, like robots and stuff. Like, it's kind of scary.
We've been jolted awake by new threats to our security and sovereignty, including from an emboldened Russia and an assertive China. Russia's barbaric invasion of Ukraine shattered previous assumptions of European post-Cold War security, leading to sharp reappraisals of the costs of collective responsibility, and underscoring how precious and precarious are international law, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and human rights. Disregarding these principles would not only betray our values, but also imperil our nation. When we stand up for territorial integrity, whether it's in Ukraine or West Bank and Gaza, we are also standing up for the territorial integrity of the Canadian Arctic.
Okay.
10 years ago.
Okay, I haven't heard anything about this. This is an interesting Canadian sort of take about the Arctic.
Canada's defense spending fell to less than 1% of GDP.
Wow.
It has since doubled in cash terms, but it's still not close enough to face these mounting risks.
Okay.
The brave women and men who are protecting our sovereignty do not have the resources they need for a riskier world.
Oh, wow.
Our military infrastructure and equipment have aged, hindering our military preparedness.
Oh, wow. Mark Carney is like just going to town on Canada's military status right now. And obviously it's good to be honest, and like you shouldn't kid yourself. And I think that's what he's avoiding here. He's openly saying, like, Canada's military, like literally the budget is like 1% of 1% of GDP, he said. And like super low. A lot of the military stuff is out of date. There's not a lot of money, not a lot of resources, and the world is just becoming a scarier and scarier place. Interesting for me as an American, of course, because again, I'm not trying to sound like egotistical or something. I think this is just a well-known fact. The United States, like our military, our defense, that is like one of the number one things we spend money on. We're literally known for our military spending. Like in the amount of the size of our military, the military strength that we have, all like, and the most modern, crazy, convoluted equipment. We probably go overboard, but I think for most Americans, we're actually have the opinion like, well, the world's getting crazier and crazier. It feels good to live in a place where you do too much for your military. Like our military, if there's any argument, it's too much. We spend too much. We have too much military stuff. And for a lot of Americans, that's like a price that we're willing to pay, and probably something that a lot of Americans actually enjoy and makes us feel safe. So it's interesting hearing from Canada a different point of view, where it's like for a long time, Canada has kind of neglected this aspect, and now in 2025, right in this video, Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, is like, we're gonna really like revamp this whole what we're doing and spending on military, and I think he's gonna get into details, hopefully, about that.
I'll give an example or two. Only one of our 4 submarines is seaworthy.
Oh, wow.
Less than half our maritime fleet and land vehicles are operational.
What?
More broadly, we're too reliant on the United States.
Ah, so that's what it's been, basically. For a long time, U.S. and Canada have had a great relationship. I hope that can continue. I know, like, Carney went to the White House. That went okay. There's, like, the G7 meeting coming up. And I hope it all goes okay, and hopefully the relationship between Canada and the United States can be salvaged and be good. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But Mark Carney's basically admitting Canada has relied too much on the United States for military defense, and like a lot of other things, Canada is trying to take a step back from U.S. reliance, which makes all the sense in the world to me. I totally get it.
And so for all those reasons, I'm announcing today that Canada will achieve NATO's 2% of GDP target this year, half a decade ahead of schedule.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. People are clapping. I don't know who's in the audience, but they seem to like it. So basically, Canada is doubling its military budget from 1% to 2%. Something that you thought was going to take years is now happening this year. That's very impressive if that actually happens.
And we will further accelerate our investments in years to come.
Wow.
Consistent with meeting these new security imperatives.
Wow.
We'll start by changing the way we support and invest in our armed forces.
Okay.
We will change the way we arm the men and women who serve.
Okay.
So we can fight on new battlegrounds in unfamiliar territory.
What does that mean? What does that mean? We are going to change the way we arm our military. What does that specifically mean?
So we can defend every inch of our sovereign territory, from seafloor to the Arctic to cyberspace.
Wow.
So we can protect Canadians, our interests, and our allies.
Wow, wow, wow.
Canada's new government will rebuild, reinvest, and rearm the Canadian Armed Forces with a strategy that rests on 4 pillars. Investing in the foundations of defense.
Okay.
The women and men who serve, and the equipment and infrastructure that they use.
Okay, sure.
Second, we will enhance and expand our military capabilities. Third, we'll strengthen Canada's defense industry.
Okay.
And we will diversify Canada's defense partnerships.
So you're going to get defense partnerships with other countries around the world? You're going to increase your military. Are you going to recruit more men and women into the Canadian military? Like increase the head count? Are you going to buy more guns or updated guns or missile defense systems? Like, are you going to fix those other 3 submarines or?
I call on all parties in Parliament to support these critical investments in our security and sovereignty. Our plan will help ensure that Canada is strong at home and reliable abroad.
Okay.
We will ensure that every dollar is invested wisely, including by prioritizing made-in-Canada manufacturing and supply chains.
Oh, wow. Is this something that Canadians really wanted? Because I have to say, I've been trying to follow the Canadian politics on YouTube a bit. I haven't heard anything about this before today. I had no idea Canadians cared about this. I had no idea this was the plan. Is this something the Canadian people have been wanting? Like, have you guys been like, I wish our government would focus on our military? Because I didn't even know this was like a big concern or a big project.
We should no longer send 3/4 of our defense capital spending to America.
I see.
We will invest in new submarines, aircraft, ships, armed vehicles, and artillery,
Oh, there we go.
as well as new radar, drones, and sensors to monitor the seafloor and the Arctic.
There we go. Okay.
Nous allons réparer et
Wow.
entretenir les navires.
We will repair and maintain our ships, our aircraft, and infrastructure that for too long we allowed to rust and deteriorate. We will invest in satellite technology in order to detect and prevent threats for Canada and its allies.
Damn. I mean, if Canada needs all this stuff, all this new stuff, like the satellites and the missiles and the fixing the vessels, and it does sound like Canada was neglecting this aspect of your nation for too long. Probably it actually took the U.S. kind of betraying Canada and threatening Canada as well as the threat of, I don't know, World War III, or at least that's what people seem to be kind of leaning towards these days with all the wars breaking out in other parts of the world. It's taken a lot, for Canada to finally kind of be like, okay, we don't feel safe. We got to do something about this. So maybe this is all just very overdue.
We will ensure Canada's north is protected with a larger, sustained, year-round Canadian Armed Forces presence on land, sea, and air.
Yeah, this northern Canada defense, I had no idea that was even a concern.
We will expand the reach, security mandate, and the abilities of the Canadian Coast Guard and integrate it into our NATO defense capabilities to better secure our sovereignty and expand maritime surveillance.
Okay.
As part of our new strategic approach to defense and security, we will also establish Borealis, the Bureau of Research, Engineering, and Advanced Leadership in Innovation and Science.
Oh my God.
Borealis will advance cutting-edge research in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other frontier technologies essential to safeguarding our sovereignty.
The AI, there it is. Canada, the military, it's getting in on the AI. Joking aside, like that's actually important. And whatever that means, getting the AI involved with the military stuff, I think that's going to be very, very important. I know the United States has like AI, maybe it has to do with that company Palantir, but literally it's to the point where AI, like nations around the world are trying to train AI so that AI is smart enough to look at all the news in the world, all the information in the world, consume it all quickly, and make predictions. AI will probably be able to predict what are the most likely areas that are going to be attacked, what areas strategically are vulnerable, what day of the year is Russia most likely to attack this guy, or what might happen 4 years down the road if this series of events happens. And AI is going to be able to compute all of these by looking at even the weather in the future. I don't want to sound too crazy, but it's going to take all these crazy factors and calculate, be able to give governments and nations around the world who have access to this stuff and have developed it a huge, huge advantage militarily. So anyway, that's just some of the stuff, I've read about and kind of heard about. And not to sound too crazy here, but the AI, it's coming. Run.
Nous allons pallier le manque de personnel dans les forces armées
We will
canadiennes.
alleviate the shortage of personnel in the Canadian Armed Forces by modernizing our recruitment process, building new housing on our military bases, and improving access to health and child care services.
I was wondering about that. So Canada is going to increase military recruitment. I was wondering about that.
We will give every member of our armed forces a well-deserved salary increase, which will also contribute to recruitment and retaining personnel.
All right.
At this very time, the Canadian Armed Forces are fighting wildfires to protect our fellow Canadians and their communities. They defend our coastlines and our waters. They patrol the Arctic and support our allies on the borders of Russia. And they do all of that in difficult conditions and too often with inadequate equipment.
Wow.
They deserve better, and they will have better.
Wow.
In
Okay.
parallel, we are actively seeking to strengthen transatlantic security, particularly by becoming a participant in ReArm Europe.
Oh.
This will help diversify our military suppliers with reliable European partners and integrate the Canadian defense industry as full participants in 150 billion euros of Europe's rearmament program.
Rearm Europe. So is Canada going to manufacture arms to sell to Europe then?
To these ends, the Canada-EU summit later this month will be more important than ever.
Ooh.
And Canada will arrive at this summit with a plan to lead, with new investments to build our strength in service.
I didn't even know there was a Canada-EU summit. I guess the U.S. isn't invited to that.
Of our values. This will include our support for a new NATO defense industrial pledge, which will be negotiated at the NATO summit. The Defense Industrial Pledge encompasses both assets and infrastructure that support our defense goals. Canada is confident that our economic strategy and our many strategic resources, from critical minerals to cyber, will make major contributions to NATO security.
Wow. Nice.
We will support tangible commitments from our allies to provide NATO with the necessary resolve to deter aggression and protect against all adversaries in all domains.
So it's not just about Canada investing in itself and in its military. Canada also intends to provide a lot of benefits to NATO and other countries around the world, which is pretty awesome.
Our fundamental goal in all of this is to protect Canadians, not to satisfy NATO accountants.
Okay. That's
Ce
good.
qui va assurer notre sécurité
What
est celle
will
de
ensure
tous
our
les
security and that of all the citizens of NATO countries
et non une
is
calcul
tangible
mathématique.
progress and not a mathematical
C'est l'approche que le
calculation.
Canada
That is the
va
approach
préconiser
that Canada will be
et celle que
advocating,
nous présenterons
and the
à nos
one
alliés
we
de
will
l'OTAN
present
plus
to our
tard
NATO
ce
allies
mois-ci.
later on this month.
Okay.
We will undertake this transformation of our military capabilities strategically, deliberately, and impactfully. Canada's Department of National Defence will immediately design a new defence policy that reflects both today's and tomorrow's threats,
Wow.
informed by experts. Some
This just goes on and on. This is a huge news, a huge revamp of the Canadian military. That's what I thought this announcement was going to be about. And now now I get it. This is pretty huge.
in this room, and the experience of allies and partners, including Ukraine. We're in the process of creating a new defense procurement agency that will be guided by that new defense industrial strategy and overseen by our newly appointed Secretary of State for Defense Procurement. The
Okay.
Defense Procurement Agency will centralize decision-making and move at pace to get our armed forces the equipment they need when they need it.
Okay.
We will ensure that Canadian workers and businesses benefit from the huge increase in defense procurement that will be required.
Sure.
Using Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian critical minerals, Canadian cyber.
Right, right.
Nous allons renforcer nos capacités industrielles.
We will increase our industrial capabilities and give ourselves all the necessary tools to respond to our own defense needs and seize the associated opportunities. We will invest more in munitions, including those produced by a whole range of allies.
So Canada is going to buy from Europe. Europe's going to buy from Canada. Canada is going to invest in Canada, in the service members, the military. There's going to be manufacturing in Canada to support this military revamp. There's a lot. Like, just this one military announcement there's a ton of things that are changing in Canada because of this.
It will be challenging to protect Canada and Canadians against growing and changing threats, all while building a stronger Canadian economy.
Sure.
But these are the imperatives of a more dangerous world.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, this is certainly something Canada should do. I don't know how logistically, all the details, how it's going to work, but just on its face, the idea of Canada really ramping up its investment in its military and its defense in this unpredictable day and age that we're living in, it just makes all the sense in the world. I would imagine a lot of Canadians are happy to hear about this, right?
And as His Majesty the King reminded us just 2 weeks ago, our greatest challenges present immense opportunities. To build the military we need, we can deploy and develop Canadian innovation, Canadian ingenuity, Canadian industry. The transformation of our military capabilities can help with the transformation of our economy. Today, national defense already accounts for over 275,000 direct and indirect jobs across the country in over 3,000 communities, every province, every territory. Our renewed commitment to defense will create tens of thousands of more fulfilling, high-paying careers for Canadian workers.
Right.
It will create enormous opportunities for Canadian businesses, yes, in the defense sector, but across a link of supply chains.
True.
From the production of the raw materials, steel and aluminum, to the truckers and rail workers who ensure their transit, to those who transform those materials into equipment, weapons, ammunition, vehicles.
Right.
It will help drive innovation in sectors including AI, quantum, and cyber.
True. Like, by investing in Canada's military, this is like, through all these different ways, investing in Canada and a lot of its different companies and stuff. So it seems like this could be really good even outside of growing the Canadian military, besides strengthening the military, bolstering Canada's economy as well.
It will safeguard Canada, as well as our interests and allies abroad. It will build Canada strong.
All right.
Nous allons assurer notre sécurité dans un
We
monde qui a
will
été
ensure our
profondément
security
transformé.
in a world that has
Nous allons
been
créer de
deeply
bonnes
transformed.
carrières et de la
We will
prospérité
create
à
good
travers le
careers and prosperity across
Canada. En
Canada.
ce faisant,
And in
nous
so
allons
doing,
protéger
we will
cette
also
prospérité,
protect that
protéger
prosperity
notre qualité de
protect
vie
our
et
quality of
protéger
life,
notre façon
and
d'être.
protect our way of living.
Yeah, like, as an American, one of the only reasons I feel safe in this crazy world is because of our military and our strength in that sense. So I totally get why Canada would and probably should do this.
Throughout Canada's history, there have been turning points where the world's fortunes were in the balance. That was the case at the start of the Second World War, just as it was at the end of the Cold War. And each time, Canada chose to step up, to assert ourselves as a free, sovereign, and ambitious nation, to lead on the path of democracy and freedom. And we are once again at such a hinge moment.
Wow.
Il est temps pour le Canada de tracer sa
It is
propre
time for
voie,
Canada
de
to
s'affirmer sur la
chart its
scène
own
internationale.
path and to assert itself
Il
on the
est temps de
international stage.
défendre nos valeurs
It is time to defend
avec
our
ceux
values
qui les partagent.
with those who share
Il
them.
est temps de partager avec le monde
It
une
is time
approche et
to
une
share
vision
with the
distincte.
world a distinctive approach
Now is
and
the time
vision.
to act with urgency, with force, with determination. As the world grows more dangerous, Canada will ensure our country is protected from coast to coast to coast, while creating higher paying jobs across the land. Canada will lead with the values the world respects, the resources the world wants, an economy that leads the G7.
Wow.
We will build a strong, secure, and sovereign future for all Canadians and for all time.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Wow. Wow. Holy cow. That was something. It started a little slow there at the beginning, but once he got going, this was a huge announcement. I think most Americans have no clue about what plans Canada has in store. This is a huge news for Canada. I liked most everything Mark Carney had to say. I assume Canadians like this as well. It's a really huge initiative Canada's taking, probably really overdue. Based on the things Mark Carney said about your sort of underfunded, out-of-date military, this is overdue, and this is the time to do it, as he said. So that was super interesting, really great speech. Yeah, the future hopefully looks pretty bright for Canada. So that's really cool for you guys. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, especially if you're Canadian. What do you think about all this? Do you like this plan? Hearing Canadians' thoughts about this military transformation you're going to have, that'd be really cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and learning about Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.